Who are the Palestinians according to the Bible? This question, simple on its face, delves deep into the intricate tapestry of history, faith, and identity that spans millennia. As we embark on this journey, we promise not only to seek out historical insights but also to end with a reflective prayer for peace and understanding, reminding ourselves of our shared humanity. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. This profound reflection from Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 8 encapsulates the cyclical nature of human existence, the ebb and flow of conflict and harmony. It urges us to contemplate the seasons of strife and reconciliation that have, for centuries, defined the lands spoken of in sacred texts. With these words guiding us, let us delve into the biblical narratives and ask, who are the Palestinians, really? Let us embark on a journey into the ancient past, seeking to uncover the origins of a people whose history intertwines with the narratives of the Bible. A specific question emerges from the mists of time. Who are the Palestinians according to the Scriptures? Our first landmark on this exploration is the book of Genesis. Specifically, Genesis chapter 10 verse 14 makes a notable mention of the Philistines, who are often considered to be the ancestors of the modern Palestinians. This verse finds itself within the Table of Nations, a genealogical record that outlines the descendants of Noah's sons after the Great Flood. Among the descendants of Ham, we find the Philistines, born of Casluhim, emerging as a notable group. This morsel of genealogical history, while brief, hints at a lineage that has crossed centuries, weaving through the profound and complex story of the region. Understanding this connection lays a vital foundation for further exploration. Next, we turn to the prophet Amos, a voice piercing the silence of time from the 8th century BCE. In Amos chapter 9 verse 7, we read, "Are not you Israelites the same to me as the Cushites? Declares the Lord. Did I not bring Israel up from Egypt, the Philistines from Kaftor and the Arameans from Kir?" Here, the Lord himself speaks, drawing a parallel between the deliverance of Israel from Egypt and the Philistines from Kaftor, an island often identified with Crete. This passage places the Philistines within a broader context of divine intervention and guidance, similar to the chosen people, the Israelites. It hints at a shared human experience under the divine orchestration, suggesting that the Philistines' journey to the Promised Land is as significant in the eyes of God as that of Israel. Finally, let us turn our gaze to the prophet Ezekiel, specifically Ezekiel chapter 25 verses 15 to 17. Here, the prophet conveys a message of divine judgment upon the Philistines. This is what the sovereign Lord says: "Because the Philistines acted in vengeance and took revenge with malice in their hearts, and with ancient hostility sought to destroy Judah. Therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says: I am about to stretch out my hand against the Philistines. I will wipe out the Kerethites and destroy those remaining along the coast. I will carry out great vengeance on them and punish them in my wrath. Then they will know that I am the Lord when I take vengeance on them." These words present a stark narrative wherein the Philistines' enmity towards Judah invites divine retribution. This passage is rich in themes of justice, judgment, and the sovereign power of God over nations. It encapsulates the perpetual conflict and strained relations that characterized Philistine-Israelite interactions, yet highlights a hope that through divine acts, recognition of the Lord's sovereignty would ultimately be realized. In summary, these key biblical texts provide crucial insights into the origins and historical path of the Philistines. From genealogical mentions in Genesis, shared divine deliverance in Amos, to the pronounced judgments in Ezekiel, we gather a multifaceted understanding of the Philistines, their ancient lineage, and the complex tapestry of their interactions with the Israelites, a tapestry that echoes even into the present day. Ah, dear listener, let us embark on a journey through the pages of the Old Testament, where the Philistines emerge as prominent figures in the ancient narrative. Their presence weaves through the tapestry of Scripture, creating a backdrop of conflict, cultural clash, and eventual integration that echoes through the annals of time. We begin our exploration with the frequent mentions of the Philistines across various books of the Old Testament. These ancient people, often at odds with the Israelites, are first introduced in Genesis, where they are placed among the descendants of Ham, one of Noah's sons. Here, they are depicted as part of the broader Canaanite milieu, inhabiting the coastal regions of the land that Israel would come to settle. In the book of Judges, the Philistines rise to significant prominence. As the Israelites falter in their faithfulness to God, the Philistines take advantage of their weakness, oppressing them and threatening their very existence. It is during this period that we encounter the extraordinary figure of Samson, whose tale is preserved in the rich and vivid storytelling of the biblical authors. Samson, a judge of Israel endowed with supernatural strength by God, engages in a relentless struggle against the Philistines. His feats, from tearing apart a lion with his bare hands to single-handedly slaying 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass, are the stuff of legend. Yet, beneath these raw displays of power lies a deeper narrative of human frailty, divine purpose, and the cost of betrayal. Moving forward to the books of Samuel, we find the Philistines locked in battle with Israel once more. Their conflict with Saul, the first king of Israel, is relentless and brutal. The Philistines' technological advantage in possessing iron weapons gives them a fearsome edge, one that Saul struggles to counter. Amidst the turbulence of these skirmishes, the Philistines capture the Ark of the Covenant, believing it will bring them victory. However, they are swiftly disabused of this notion as calamities befall them, leading to the Ark's return to Israel. This episode underscores the Philistines' mistaken belief in their control over the divine. Yet, it is in the narrative of David that the Philistines' role reaches its dramatic zenith. David, the shepherd boy destined for greatness, faces the Philistine giant Goliath in one of the most iconic confrontations recorded in the Bible. With nothing but a sling and a few stones, David's defeat of Goliath is not merely a military victory but a demonstration of faith and divine favor. This triumph catapults David into the national consciousness, setting the stage for his future kingship. Throughout David's ascent and reign, the Philistines remain a recurring adversary, their encounters shaping the political and spiritual landscape of Israel. As we reflect upon these broader narratives involving the Philistines, we cannot help but observe the complexity of their depiction in the Old Testament. Far from being mere antagonists, they are integral to the unfolding story of Israel, highlighting themes of faith, providence, and the oftentimes arduous path to fulfillment of divine promises. Their persistence and proximity force Israel to confront their own identity and reliance on God. Thus, in understanding the Philistines through the biblical lens, we gain insight into a people who, though often at odds with Israel, played a crucial role in shaping the destiny of the chosen nation. Their presence, trials, and interactions with the Israelites offer a rich tapestry of lessons and reflections, inviting us to ponder the mysteries of human history and divine orchestration. Let us commence our exploration by casting a glance upon the historical tapestry of the Near East during the epochs in which these venerable biblical texts found their genesis. To comprehend the narratives and conflicts ensconced within the pages of Scripture, one must delve into the milieu of ancient civilizations that adorned this fertile crescent. The Near East, during the 12th to 7th centuries BCE, teemed with a multitude of vibrant cultures and nascent kingdoms. This period witnessed the rise and fall of potent empires, each vying for dominion over the land and its precious resources. Among these polities, the Israelites and the Philistines emerged as prominent actors on this historical stage, their fates inextricably intertwined. During the 12th century BCE, the world was a patchwork of city-states and small kingdoms. The Late Bronze Age had come to a tumultuous end, marked by widespread societal shifts and the crumbling of established powers. This epoch, often referred to as the Bronze Age collapse, gave rise to new civilizations seeking to carve out their destinies amidst the ruins of their predecessors. In this cauldron of change, the Philistines arrived on the shores of the Levant, their origins shrouded in the mists of antiquity. Historical and archaeological evidence suggests that they were among the Sea Peoples, a confederation of marauding groups that traversed the Mediterranean, leaving in their wake a trail of destruction and new settlements. Their appearance in the coastal plains of Canaan heralded the dawn of an era marked by both conflict and cohabitation with the native populations. The Israelites, on the other hand, were forging their identity in the highlands of Canaan. Emerging from a semi-nomadic existence, they endeavored to establish a unified national identity under the aegis of a common religion and shared ancestry. The sacred texts recount their journey from bondage in Egypt to the conquest of the Promised Land, a narrative replete with divine intervention and covenantal promise. As the Israelites settled in the Central Highlands and beyond, the Philistines established their Pentapolis, a league of 5 cities: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. These cities became the epicenters of Philistine culture and power, characterized by advancements in technology, art, and military prowess. The interaction between the Israelites and the Philistines was one of relentless contest and occasional cooperation. The biblical texts are replete with accounts of clashes and alliances, victories and defeats. The Philistines, with their superior iron weaponry and formidable chariots, often held the upper hand in these encounters. Yet, the Israelites, driven by their faith and tenacious spirit, frequently found ways to challenge their mightier foes. One of the seminal conflicts recorded in the scriptures is the confrontation between the young shepherd David and the giant warrior Goliath. This event, steeped in both history and legend, encapsulates the enduring struggle between the nascent Israelite kingdom and the well-established Philistine presence. The triumph of David, armed with nothing but a sling and divine favor, over the towering Goliath symbolized a turning point in this protracted struggle, heralding the rise of David as a pivotal figure in Israelite history. Moving through the centuries, the interplay between these two peoples ebbed and flowed with the tides of regional power dynamics. The Philistines, though often adversarial, were also seen as neighbors and, at times, allies. Such was the complexity of their relations that periods of enmity were occasionally interspersed with moments of peace and mutual benefit. By the 7th century BCE, the winds of change once more swept across the Near East. Powerful empires such as Assyria and Babylon rose to prominence, overshadowing the smaller kingdoms and city-states. The Philistines, like many others, came under the yoke of these imperial behemoths, their cities becoming vassals to the great powers of Mesopotamia. The Israelites, too, faced the formidable might of Assyria and later Babylon, leading to the eventual exile and diaspora that would profoundly shape their collective identity. Thus, the historical context of the Near East during these centuries provides a rich and nuanced backdrop to the biblical narratives. It was an era of transformation and turbulence, where emerging cultures and ancient traditions converged and clashed, forging the stories that have endured through millennia. As we reflect upon these historical interactions, may we glean insights into the enduring human spirit and the complex web of relationships that have crafted our shared past. In understanding the chronicles of the Israelites and the Philistines, we uncover not merely the annals of conflict but also the resilient threads of faith, culture, and community that bind us across the ages. Imagine, if you will, the tales of old, woven into the fabric of the sacred texts. Amid the dusty pages of the Bible, two towering figures emerge from the annals of history, Samson and David. These men, separated by time yet united by their confrontation with the Philistines, etched their legacy on the scrolls of Israel's history. Samson, the Herculean marvel, stands out as a judge of Israel, ordained by divine decree even before his birth. His life, an extraordinary legend, mirrors the tumultuous relationship between the Israelites and the Philistines. Born of a miraculous annunciation, Samson's very existence was a beacon of hope for the subjugated Israelites. Endowed with supernatural strength, this Nazarite was to begin the deliverance of Israel from their enemies. Yet, as often happens with individuals wielding great power, Samson's journey was one fraught with paradoxes and trials. The narrative of Samson is replete with feats of indomitable might, from rending a lion asunder with bare hands to slaying 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. Each act of valor was a clarion call to the Philistines, a reminder of the latent strength within Israel. Samson, however, was a flawed hero. His predilection for Philistine women, most notably the treacherous Delilah, led to his undoing. Betrayed and blinded, Samson's final act of destruction in the temple of Dagon was both a personal vendetta and a divine retribution. His story underscores the perpetual enmity and the intricate dance of defiance and domination between the two peoples. Then there is David, the shepherd boy who ascended to the throne of Israel, anointed by the prophet Samuel as God's chosen king. His early escapade against Goliath, the colossal Philistine warrior, is etched in the collective memory of faith as a testament to divine providence and courage against improbable odds. The valley of Elah bore witness to this youthful David, armed with naught but a sling and stones, delivering Israel from the Philistine menace with a single, fateful strike to Goliath's forehead. David's triumph heralded a shift in the power dynamics between the Israelites and the Philistines. No longer were the Israelites merely the beleaguered. They now had a champion whose heart and harp sang praises to the Lord, yet whose hands and sword bore witness in battle. David's subsequent campaigns against the Philistines cemented his role as both spiritual leader and military strategist. His victories were not solely of martial prowess but were seen as divine favor, reaffirming Israel's status as the chosen people under God's covenant. These two figures, Samson and David, stand as pillars in the saga of Israelite-Philistine interactions. Samson's brute strength and tragic flaws juxtapose David's faith-driven courage and strategic genius. Their lives, rife with struggle and triumph, woven with divine interplay, paint a vivid tableau of the era's strife and spirituality. Thus, in contemplating these historical titans, one discerns more than mere stories of old. One sees the intricate interplay of faith, destiny, and identity, elements that shaped an entire people and their narrative against the backdrop of an enduring clash with the Philistines. It is through such reflections that one gains deeper insight into the indomitable spirit of the Israelites and the providence of their God. Amidst the turbulent and often violent narratives that populate the Old Testament, the Philistine-Israelite conflicts serve as a distinct and complex backdrop where profound theological concepts are interwoven. These stories are not just tales of battlefield strategies and heroic deeds but are also rich with deeper meanings about divine judgment, covenant, and the enduring concept of a chosen people. To fully grasp these dimensions, one must delve beyond the surface of the text, seeking the wisdom embedded within. Firstly, let us consider the theme of divine judgment. This is a recurrent motif in the interactions between the Israelites and the Philistines. In these narratives, the Philistines often serve as instruments of God's judgment against the Israelites, a people who, at various points, waver in their faith and obedience. For instance, when Israel strays from its covenantal commitments, God allows the Philistines to gain the upper hand as a form of chastisement. Yet, this divine judgment is not merely punitive. It is redemptive, designed to bring Israel back to a path of righteousness. In the book of Judges, we witness Samson, a figure of immense strength granted by God, who is destined to fight the Philistines. His very life becomes a paradox of divine favor and human frailty. His struggles are symbolic of Israel's own tumultuous relationship with God, a blend of chosen status and recurring transgressions. God's judgment on Samson, such as the loss and eventual return of his strength, mirrors the cyclical nature of Israel's sin, punishment, repentance, and deliverance. Next, we encounter the concept of the covenant, a sacred agreement that shapes the identity and destiny of Israel. The narrative arcs involving the Philistines are framed within this broader divine promise. The covenant not only sets Israel apart but also holds them to a higher standard of faithfulness. The battles against the Philistines remind the Israelites of their unique role as God's chosen people, bound by divine law and promise. David's triumph over Goliath is illustrative of covenantal themes. It is not merely a victory of an underdog but a reaffirmation of God's commitment to Israel. David, armed with faith and chosen by God, defeats the seemingly invincible Philistine giant. This event underscores that God's purposes will be accomplished not by might, but through faithfulness to his covenant. Finally, we arrive at the enduring idea of a chosen people. The Israelites are a nation set apart, and their conflicts with the Philistines highlight this chosenness. However, their status is not a guarantee of perpetual favor. It is contingent upon their adherence to God's commandments. The Philistines, in these stories, often embody the chaos and idolatry that Israel is called to resist. The struggle against them is as much spiritual as it is physical, a fight to maintain their distinct identity and mission in the world. The notion of divine judgment, covenant, and chosenness seen through the prism of Philistine-Israelite conflicts offers timeless lessons. It challenges believers to reflect on their own faithfulness to God's covenant, to discern his hand in the trials they face, and to understand the gravity of being set apart for a divine purpose. These ancient narratives, replete with theological richness, thus continue to speak to the spiritual journey of every believer, reminding us that within history's unfolding drama lies a divine script that beckons us toward deeper understanding and commitment. In contemplating these themes, we are invited to see beyond the battles and bloodshed to the divine narrative at play. The Philistine-Israelite conflicts, while historical, are also emblematic of the eternal struggle within the human soul, a struggle to remain true to God amidst the turbulence of life. And in this, we find not only the shadow of our past but also the light for our path ahead. Let us then turn our gaze to the interpretations of influential theologians, whose reflections and profound insights have shaped our understanding of the biblical Philistines. Augustine of Hippo, that stalwart of early Christian thought, provides us with a sturdy foundation. In his vast body of work, Augustine often searched the scriptures for deeper allegorical meanings, believing they played a vital role in the moral and spiritual education of the faithful. Augustine saw the Philistines as representative of worldly vices opposed to the divine order established by God. For him, the battles between Israel and Philistines weren't merely historical skirmishes but moral lessons in the ceaseless conflict between virtue and vice, faith and heresy. In Augustine's writings, one can detect a thread of understanding that the narratives of the Philistines serve as cautionary tales, urging believers to adhere to the ways of righteousness and resist the temptations of a corrupt, Philistine-like world. Moving forward in time, we encounter the modern scholar N.T. Wright, whose contributions to the field of biblical studies have added intricate layers to our understanding of ancient texts. Wright emphasizes a historical critical approach, examining the socio-political contexts of the biblical stories. He urges us to contemplate not just the narrative's theological implications but its place within the broader tapestry of human history. N.T. Wright invites us to view the Philistines through the lens of exiled peoples and forces us to recognize the convergence of divine narrative and human history. He suggests that the struggles between the Israelites and Philistines mirror the broader themes of exile, identity, and divine purpose that weave throughout the grand tapestry of Scripture. By scrutinizing archaeological findings and ancient Near Eastern texts, Wright provides a nuanced comprehension that augments the spiritual significance with a firm historical grounding. These theologians, Augustine with his allegorical reflections and Wright with his historical insights, converge on the notion that the Philistines are far more than mere footnotes in Israel's story. They represent broader themes that transcend time: conflicts between faith and idolatry, divine justice and worldly rebellion. Through Augustine and Wright, we glean that interpretations of the Philistines encapsulate a narrative where the spiritual and historical realms intertwine. They bring forth lessons that resonate through the corridors of history into the very heart of contemporary faith, urging believers to reflect on the continuous unfolding of God's plan amidst the tumult of human history. In this synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern scholarship, we find a framework through which the story of the Philistines transcends its ancient roots to offer timeless insights. These reflections invite us to ponder deeply how the struggles of the past illuminate the path of righteousness and faith we tread today. In seeking the truth about the origins of the Palestinians, we are invited to journey back through the corridors of ancient texts and long-standing traditions. This endeavor is not merely an academic exercise but a quest to understand the profound connections that echo through the ages. Let us begin by examining the arguments that uphold the traditional interpretations which align the Philistines of the ancient world with the modern Palestinians. This perspective, held by many over centuries, finds its roots in the annals of the Bible and is supported by extra-biblical evidence. The Bible itself provides several points of reference that link the Philistines to the regions now inhabited by the Palestinians. One of the most compelling texts comes from the book of Genesis. In chapter 10, verse 14, we find the mention of the Philistines, describing them as descendants of the Casluhim, an ancient people recorded as settling in what is now the Gaza Strip, an area deeply intertwined with Palestinian identity today. Further biblical support comes from the accounts of the battles between the Israelites and the Philistines, most notably the stories of Samson, who is said to have fought valiantly against the Philistine rulers, and the young shepherd David, who felled the giant Goliath. These narratives, found in the books of Judges and Samuel, firmly place the Philistines in the territories that coincide with modern-day Palestine. Theologically, the traditional view is bolstered by the understanding of the Philistines as a significant group within the biblical narrative. Their continuous confrontations with the Israelites are not mere historical conflicts but are seen as part of a divine drama wherein the chosen people of God are tested, shaped, and ultimately guided toward fulfilling their covenant. Beyond the biblical texts, extra-biblical evidence also plays a critical role in supporting this traditional alignment. Ancient Egyptian records, including inscriptions and reliefs, refer to a people called the Pelset. Scholars largely agree that Pelset is synonymous with the Philistines. These records describe the Pelset as one of the sea peoples who migrated to the coastlines of the Near East during the Late Bronze Age, settling in regions that overlap with the current geographical layout of Palestine. Archaeological discoveries further fortify this viewpoint. The excavation of ancient Philistine cities such as Ashkelon, Ashdod, and Ekron has unearthed artifacts and architectural remains that demonstrate a distinct culture, yet one interwoven with the threads of the broader Near Eastern tapestry. These discoveries include ceramics, inscriptions, and tools that paint a vivid picture of Philistine life, resonating with elements found in the cultural practices of modern Palestinians. Additionally, the linguistic trail offers intriguing clues. words and names recorded in ancient texts that share roots with those in Arabic, the language predominantly spoken by Palestinians today. These linguistic connections suggest a continuous thread of human occupation and cultural evolution in the region. It stands to reason, then, that the traditional interpretation is not without its merits. It draws on a confluence of biblical, historical, and archaeological evidence, weaving a coherent narrative that aligns the ancient Philistines with the contemporary Palestinians. While the interpretations may vary and the evidence may be continually scrutinized and re-evaluated by scholars, the traditional view remains a cornerstone in the broader understanding of this complex and deeply historical identity. Thus, by embracing this traditional perspective, we are reminded of the timeless nature of human stories and the ways in which they bind us to those who have come before. It is through these ancient testimonies that we are granted a glimpse into the enduring legacy of peoples and places, a reminder that history is not merely a record of the past, but a living narrative that continues to shape the present and inspire the future. Challenges to traditional views. In exploring the origins of the peoples we know today as Palestinians, one finds oneself delving into a web far more intricate than the biblical texts alone might suggest. It is an intellectual journey that invites us to consider the array of scholarly counterarguments that propose a multifaceted origin story. This labyrinth of history and science often stands in contrast to the simpler, more linear narratives traditionally upheld. Firstly, let us navigate the scholarly waters that flow beyond the canonical scriptural accounts. These academics present a tapestry woven from threads of historical, cultural, and linguistic evidence which hints at a confluence of diverse peoples. This perspective moves away from the notion of a singular lineage connecting the ancient Philistines directly to modern Palestinians. Instead, it suggests a gradual and complex amalgamation of various ethnic groups over millennia. One may ponder the role of the Canaanite heritage in this mosaic. The Canaanites, contemporaries of the early Israelites, inhabited the land long before the arrival of the Philistines. Their culture, language, and traditions undoubtedly intermingled with those of other groups, leaving an indelible imprint on the region's genealogical tree. Furthermore, genetic studies provide a modern lens through which we can peer into this ancient past. Advancements in genetic technology have enabled scientists to analyze DNA from ancient remains and compare it to the genetic profiles of present-day populations. Such research has unearthed revelations that challenge simplistic historical connections. These genetic markers suggest that the ancestors of today's Palestinians shared common threads not only with the Philistines but also with numerous other peoples who dwelled and traveled through the Levant. The crumbling vestiges of ancient cities have also yielded secrets long buried under the sands of time. Archaeological discoveries, such as those in Gaza and Ashkelon, allow us to reconstruct the daily lives of the Philistines. These excavations reveal a society rich in its own right, with innovations and artifacts that speak of a complex interaction with neighboring cultures, including the Egyptians, Hittites, and Phoenicians. Such findings underscore the interwoven destinies of multiple civilizations that once shared the stage in this historically vibrant region. Perhaps most compelling is the evidence that arises from the continuity of cultural practices, linguistic traits, and even culinary traditions. These elements resonate through the ages, subtly yet persistently influencing contemporary Palestinian identity. The festivals, folklore, and everyday customs, when viewed through a long historical lens, bear the imprints of numerous bygone eras. Thus, the narrative that pictures the Palestinians solely as descendants of the biblical Philistines oversimplifies a far richer and more varied heritage. It is a heritage that beckons us to appreciate the myriad influences and events that have sculpted the peoples of the region into their present form. In pondering these complexities, one might reflect upon the broader implications for our understanding of identity and history. The temptation to lean on straightforward tales must be tempered by a willingness to embrace the fullness of human experience, acknowledging that the past's true texture is often woven from many strands. Let us then, in a spirit of inquiry and humility, continue to explore these counter-arguments, recognizing the depth and diversity they add to our comprehension. Through such scholarly endeavors, we may arrive at a more nuanced appreciation of the rich tapestry that is the history of the Palestinians. Let us now embark on a fascinating journey of comparative religious beliefs, particularly focusing on the biblical references to the Philistines and their counterparts in ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian records. In the rich tapestry of Near Eastern history, the Philistines occupy a unique position, woven into the narratives of the Bible and etched into the annals of neighboring civilizations. To comprehend their full significance, it is beneficial to juxtapose these biblical accounts with those from Egypt and Mesopotamia, regions replete with their own storied heritages and chronicles. In the biblical texts, the Philistines are frequently portrayed as formidable adversaries of the Israelites. From the towering figure of Goliath, defeated by the young David, to the tumultuous exploits of Samson against Philistine antagonists, these narratives are imbued with conflict, strife, and dramatic encounters. The stories are more than mere accounts of battles. They encapsulate deeper themes of divine intervention, the struggle between chosen people and their opponents, and moral lessons that transcend the specifics of the age. Turning our gaze to Egypt, we find the Philistines mentioned in records as Pelset, one of the sea peoples who encroached upon the Egyptian territories during the Late Bronze Age. The Egyptians, renowned for their meticulous record-keeping, documented these incursions in texts and temple reliefs, notably on the walls of the mortuary temple of Ramses III at Medinet Habu. These records describe the Pelset as fierce warriors arriving by sea, challenging Egyptian stability and pressing on the fringes of their empire. The Egyptian perspective, while acknowledging the martial prowess of the Philistines, tends to depict them as external threats meant to be repelled to preserve the sanctity and order of the pharaonic reign. Meanwhile, the Mesopotamian chronicles offer yet another lens through which the Philistines are viewed. The Assyrian annals, for instance, refer to the lands of Philistia and its inhabitants. During the Neo-Assyrian Empire, rulers such as Sennacherib and Esarhaddon recorded their campaigns that included subjugating the Philistine cities of Ashkelon, Ekron, and Gaza. These records, written in the precise and often robust language of imperial reports, reflect the Philistines as one of many peoples within the vast and diverse palette of Assyrian dominion, rebellious at times, yet integrated into the larger framework of tribute and conquest. Despite the differences in perspective, there are striking parallels in how these ancient cultures perceived the Philistines. Common themes include their reputation as formidable warriors and seafarers, their presence as a significant political and military force in the region, and their involvement in the broader geopolitical currents of the Near East. These accounts collectively underscore a period of great flux and movement, where the Philistines were both influencers and influenced, navigating the complex web of ancient diplomacy, war, and cultural exchange. Yet, there are divergences in these narratives as well. The biblical texts often emphasize the covenantal relationship between the Israelites and their God, framing the conflicts with the Philistines in theological terms. The Egyptians, with their pantheon of gods and focus on maintaining ma'ah, order and harmony, viewed the Philistine incursions more as disruptions to be managed and contained. The Mesopotamians, with their imperial ambitions and administrative rigor, saw the Philistine territories through the prism of empire building and resource control. In summation, comparing the biblical references to the Philistines with those from Egypt and Mesopotamia not only enriches our understanding of this enigmatic people but also illuminates the broader cultural and historical milieu of the ancient Near East. Each perspective adds layers of depth to our comprehension, painting a multifaceted picture of the Philistines and their interactions with the great civilizations of their time. In the annals of human history, the essence of archaeology pulses with a profound rhythm, echoing the timeless quest to uncover our shared past. It beckons us to a journey not simply through fragments of stone and pottery, but through the lives and stories that once animated such remnants. Among the most captivating of these journeys is the exploration into the ancient cities of the Philistines, whose tales are inextricably woven into the rich tapestry of biblical history. Picture, if you will, the bustling ancient ports of Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, bastions of Philistine civilization. In these coastal cities, where the sea's embrace met the land's rugged resolve, archaeologists have unearthed remarkable artifacts that whisper secrets of a bygone era. Excavations in Gaza, for instance, have revealed layers of settlements that trace back to the 12th century BCE, shedding light on a people whose influence was felt far and wide. Among the treasures unearthed in Gaza, one finds a mosaic of daily life painted through the discovery of tools, pottery, and inscriptions. These items, mundane yet majestic in their endurance, speak of a culture steeped in craftsmanship and trade. The pottery, adorned with intricate designs, tells tales of artistic expression and cultural interconnectedness, with influences as diverse as the Aegean and Egyptian civilizations. As we tread further along this historical trail, our gaze turns to the monumental discoveries in Ashkelon. It was here, beneath the sands of time, that archaeologists uncovered an extensive Philistine burial ground. This necropolis, holding the remains of nearly 200 individuals, provides profound insights into the Philistines' burial practices and beliefs about life and death. The careful arrangement of graves, alongside animal remains and artifacts, suggests rituals imbued with both reverence and mystery. The Philistine city's majestic ruins sprawl like an anthology of stone, each structure a chapter whispering of daily life, and trade, and perhaps tumultuous skirmishes with their neighbors. The unearthing of a remarkably intact wine cellar in Ashkelon sheds light on their vinicultural practices, painting a picture of feasts and ceremonies where wine flowed as a symbol of camaraderie and celebration. Moving eastward, the archaeological endeavors in Ekron have revealed a city renowned for its olive oil production. Massive stone presses found at the site indicate not just a local economy thriving on olive oil but also a far-reaching trade network that extended beyond the Mediterranean basin. Inscriptions excavated here, particularly the famous Ekron royal dedicatory inscription, illuminate the political and religious landscape of the time, underscoring the city's significance within the Philistine pentapolis. Through these meticulous excavations, we glean a deeper understanding of the Philistine culture, an understanding not only shaped by their conflicts and collaborations with the Israelites but also by their innovations, rituals, and daily pursuits. The Philistines emerge not merely as invaders and adversaries in biblical narratives but as a dynamic civilization with a rich and complex heritage. The relationship between the Philistines and modern Palestinians is a subject of significant scholarly debate. While some draw direct cultural and genetic lines, others advocate for a more nuanced view, citing a mosaic of peoples and influences converging over millennia in this storied region. Yet, what remains irrefutable is the sense of continuity, a connection that binds past to present, informing identities and shaping the narratives of those who call this land home today. In our exploration of Philistine archaeology, we do more than merely piece together the fragments of an ancient world. We engage with living history, one that continues to inspire and influence. These discoveries open windows into a past that resonates through the sands of time, echoing in the lives and hearts of people today. As we hold these ancient shards, we hold stories waiting to be told, stories that invite us to reflect, to understand, and ultimately, to seek the deeper truths that bind us all. As we delve into the layers of history and untangle the intricate threads that weave the story of the Philistines and modern Palestinians, we find ourselves amidst a vibrant tapestry of academic debates. Scholars from various disciplines have long grappled with the question: can we directly connect the ancient Philistines mentioned in the Bible to the contemporary Palestinians? The debates hinge on a complex interplay of evidence, ranging from biblical texts to archaeological finds, and from historical records to genetic studies. Each strand offers a glimpse into the past, yet raises new questions about the connections, or lack thereof, between these two groups. One school of thought affirms a direct lineage. Proponents of this view often turn to the Bible, where the Philistines are depicted as a significant presence in the ancient Near East, particularly in conflicts with the Israelites. They argue that the continuity of cultural elements, geographical location, and historical narratives suggest a gradual evolution from the ancient Philistines to the modern Palestinians. To bolster their argument, these scholars point to specific biblical passages and geographical markers. They cite Genesis chapter 10 verse 14, noting the Philistines' mention among Ham's descendants, and anchor their discussion in locations such as Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, cities that remain significant in both ancient and modern times. Furthermore, proponents argue that the persistence of certain cultural practices and names supports a continuity of identity. On the other side of the debate, a different group of scholars challenges these assertions, presenting a more fragmented and diverse picture of historical connections. They argue that the term Philistine itself may refer to a conglomerate of different peoples who resided in the southern Levant. This perspective emphasizes the complexity of ancient identities and warns against oversimplified connections. These scholars often draw on archaeological and genetic evidence to highlight the distinctions. Excavations in former Philistine cities reveal a culture influenced by the Aegean world, characterized by unique pottery styles and burial practices. Furthermore, genetic analyses of ancient remains suggest a diverse ancestry, complicating the notion of a straightforward descent. Historical records from neighboring civilizations, such as the Egyptians and Assyrians, add further layers to this mosaic. These records sometimes name the Philistines alongside other sea peoples, who migrated and integrated into various local cultures. Such evidence suggests that the Philistines were part of broader migration patterns and intercultural exchanges, which may not align neatly with modern identities. Ultimately, the debates illuminate the complexity of tracing ancient lineages. Each piece of evidence, whether textual, archaeological, or genetic, contributes to a multifaceted story that resists easy categorization. The question of a direct connection between the Philistines and Palestinians remains open, inviting ongoing research and dialogue. As we consider these debates, it becomes evident that history is not a linear progression but a tapestry of intertwined experiences and identities. While some threads may hint at continuity, others reveal transformation and adaptation. In studying these historical narratives, we gain a deeper appreciation for the diverse roots that shape our present and the interconnectedness of human civilizations through time. My dear readers, let us cast our minds back to the ancient pages of the Bible and consider the miraculous events entwined with the Philistines, a people oftentimes depicted as the adversaries of Israel. Among these events, none stands out more vividly than the fall of Dagon's temple in 1 Samuel chapter 5, a spectacle of divine intervention that has echoed through the corridors of faith history. The narrative begins with the Philistines capturing the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest symbolizing the very presence of the God of Israel. They placed the ark in the temple of their god Dagon, perhaps as a trophy or to showcase the supremacy of their deity. However, the story swiftly takes a turn that defies earthly power and asserts divine supremacy. The morning after placing the ark in Dagon's temple, the Philistines found their revered statue of Dagon fallen face down before the ark. Startled, they set Dagon back in his place. But lo and behold, the next morning, Dagon was not only prostrate before the ark, but his head and hands were severed and lying on the threshold. Only the trunk remained intact. This event was not just a mere coincidence, nor a product of human intervention. It was a divine declaration that God alone reigns supreme. The theological implications of these miraculous events are profound. First, we see a direct confrontation between the God of Israel and the gods of the Philistines, typifying the repeated biblical theme of God's sovereignty over all earthly powers and idols. The decapitation and dehanding of Dagon signify the ultimate powerlessness of idols when faced with the true God. It's a reminder, dear reader, that faith in the tangible must never outstrip our reverence for the transcendent. We are shown, in no uncertain terms, that only the God of Israel is living and active. Furthermore, the episode underscores the holiness of the ark, which cannot be subsumed under pagan power, but rather exerts its own divine influence and judgment. The Philistines, though victors in battle, were left to grapple with a force beyond their control, illustrating divine irony and the futility of opposing the divine will. Yet, as modern-day readers, we ponder, could there be any scientific interpretation of these miraculous events? Some scholars step cautiously into the realm of natural explanations, hypothesizing possibilities such as earthquakes or structural weaknesses in Dagon's statue. Others suggest that the statue's fall could have been caused by vibrations or imperfections in its support base. These attempts, while engaging, often fall short, for they grapple with an intervention that transcends natural law. The essence of miracles, as C.S. Lewis himself elucidated in his works, lies not in their defiance of natural law, but in their unification of the natural and supernatural, thus revealing deeper truths. They are a retelling in small letters of the very same story which is written across the whole world in letters too large for some of us to see. Miraculous events like the fall of Dagon's temple serve as windows into the divine narrative, moments when the veil between heaven and earth is lifted, and mortals glimpse the mighty hand of God at work. Therefore, while scientific interpretations may offer intriguing insights, they remain incomplete without recognizing the theological substance. The miracles of the biblical narrative are active encounters with the divine, meant not to satisfy our empirical curiosity, but to kindle our faith and lead us to a deeper understanding of God's nature and His relationship with His people. So, let us reflect on these miraculous accounts not merely as ancient wonders relegated to the past but as living testimonies that continue to inspire and instruct. In the fall of Dagon's temple, we find a timeless proclamation of the unmatched power and holiness of God, a truth as relevant today as it was in the days of Samuel. My dear listeners, may this story invite you to ponder the grandeur of the divine narrative and embrace the faith that sees beyond the ordinary to the extraordinary workings of our Almighty Creator. To grasp the profound impact of biblical stories involving the Philistines on Jewish and Christian faith today, we must first appreciate their narrative power. These ancient accounts, recorded in sacred texts, have been more than mere historical footnotes. They have shaped the very contours of belief and practice for millennia. For Jewish faith, the tales of the Philistines serve as reminders of divine fidelity and the ongoing struggle against adversaries threatening the covenantal relationship between God and His chosen people. The story of David and Goliath, for instance, is emblematic of God's intervention in human affairs, ensuring the unlikely triumph of the underdog. It teaches that faithfulness to God can lead to victory against formidable obstacles. In synagogue rituals, in the celebration of Passover, and in the telling of children's bedtime stories, these accounts underscore a tradition of resilience and reliance on divine support. Christian faith, while sharing these tales from the Hebrew Bible, often sees them through the lens of typology, where events and persons prefigure the coming of Christ and the unfolding of God's ultimate plan for salvation. David's victory over Goliath is not just a historical account but also a foreshadowing of Christ's triumph over sin and death. Sermons, liturgical readings, and personal devotions within the Christian tradition frequently draw on these narratives to inspire faith and courage among believers. Contemporary Palestinians, whose historical and cultural roots are a matter of intricate and often contentious scholarly debate, have their own perspectives on these biblical narratives. For many, these stories are part of a broader historical heritage that possesses significance beyond the religious domain. They represent a rich cultural legacy that intertwines with the identity of the people living in this land today. Some Palestinians view these narratives with a sense of ownership, seeing themselves as the modern heirs to the ancient peoples of the region, including the Philistines. This sentiment can foster a deep connection to the land and its storied past. For others, however, the narratives are less about direct lineage and more about respecting a shared human history that transcends modern political and ethnic divisions. Interestingly, the reception of these stories among contemporary Palestinians also includes a quest for broader understanding and reconciliation. In academic circles and among peace advocates, these ancient accounts become a means to explore common ground rather than division. They are threads in the complex tapestry of Middle Eastern history that can, when approached with mutual respect and an open heart, foster dialogue and a deeper appreciation of the region's shared cultural and religious heritage. In conclusion, the stories of the Philistines woven throughout the Bible continue to echo powerfully in the faith and practices of Jews and Christians alike, symbolizing divine engagement in human history and inspiring believers to trust in God's providence. For contemporary Palestinians, these same stories offer a connection to an ancient past that enriches their cultural identity and informs their ongoing search for peace and understanding. As we reflect on these narratives, may we carry the lessons learned from the past into our future interactions, fostering a spirit of unity and reconciliation. Throughout the annals of history, the Philistines have lingered in the collective imagination, often clothed in the garb of villainy and ferocity. From the epic lines of Samuel's Chronicles to the deft brushstrokes of Renaissance painters, the figure of the Philistine has been sculpted myriad times, each representation adding another layer to an already complex mosaic. In art, the towering image of Goliath, felled by the shepherd boy David, has been an enduring symbol. Painters like Caravaggio and Michelangelo have brought these biblical scenes to life on canvas and in marble, casting the Philistines in dramatic chiaroscuro that emphasizes both their menace and their humanity. These images, rich with emotion and tension, capture more than mere historical events. They reflect universal themes of struggle, faith, and the triumph of the underdog. Literature has not lagged behind in its portrayal of the Philistines. John Milton's Samson Agonistes reimagines the plight of Samson, conveying a narrative of inner turmoil and divine retribution. Here, the Philistines are not just antagonists, but catalysts that propel the hero towards his tragic realization and ultimate redemption. This literary work invites readers to delve into themes of strength, weakness, and the complexity of divine justice. In the realm of modern media, the Philistines continue to find their place, albeit with evolving nuances. Films like Samson and Delilah, 1949, and the more recent, David and Goliath, 2015, offer cinematic interpretations that blend historical fidelity with creative license. These movies exploit the visual and narrative power of the Philistine archetype, often emphasizing their martial culture and opposition to Israelite protagonists, while occasionally exploring their own perspectives and motivations. Books, too, grapple with the Philistines' legacy. Works like Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath borrow from these ancient narratives to flesh out modern theories of power dynamics and underdog triumphs. Historical novels often reimagine Philistine lives with a modern sensitivity, attempting to humanize a people often cast in the role of the adversary. As we traverse through these cultural representations, we unearth a recurring theme. The Philistines serve as a mirror reflecting the fears, values, and aspirations of those who depict them. Their portrayal as formidable adversaries underscores a human tendency to define oneself against the other. Yet, in more nuanced depictions, there lies an implicit recognition of shared humanity amidst conflict. Modern portrayals continue to evolve, shaped by contemporary discourses of identity and conflict. In literature and films alike, there is an increasing effort to delve into the Philistines' cultural and social fabric, offering insights into their lives beyond the battlefield. This pivot from monolithic villainy towards nuanced characterizations signifies progress in how we understand and represent historical others. Thus, through art, literature, and media, the Philistines remain indelibly etched in our cultural consciousness. These representations serve not only to entertain but to provoke thought, challenging us to reconsider preconceived notions and, perhaps, to find empathy where once there was only enmity. For in the end, the true value of these depictions lies not merely in recounting ancient tales but in highlighting the timeless currents of the human condition. And so, dear listener, as you ponder the Philistines in their many artistic guises, may you find in their stories reflections of your own, and in their struggles, the echoes of an enduring quest for understanding and peace. We have embarked on a fascinating journey, delving into the ancient texts of the Bible to explore the origins of the Palestinians. Through our exploration, we have encountered the Philistines, a group often considered as the ancestors of modern Palestinians. Genesis chapter 10 verse 14, Amos chapter 9 verse 7, and Ezekiel chapter 25 verses 15 to 17 provided us with pivotal references, painting a vivid picture of the Philistines in the Old Testament. Our biblical overview brought to light the dramatic interactions between the Israelites and the Philistines, involving legendary figures like Samson and David. These narratives, deeply woven into the fabric of biblical storytelling, highlighted themes of divine judgment, covenant, and the concept of a chosen people. The theological implications of these conflicts, as interpreted by influential scholars from Augustine to N.T. Wright, further deepened our understanding and sparked contemplation. We examined various viewpoints, both traditional and modern, regarding the connection between the Philistines and Palestinians. Traditional interpretations found support in biblical texts and extra-biblical evidence, while archaeological and genetic findings presented more complex origin stories, challenging these traditional views. Our discussion also ventured into comparative religious beliefs, comparing biblical references to Philistines with ancient texts from neighboring cultures, such as Egyptian and Mesopotamian records. This broadened our perspective and enriched our comprehension of historical contexts. Significant archaeological discoveries, such as excavations in Gaza, shed light on Philistine culture and provided tangible links to Palestinians, fueling academic debates over their direct connections. These debates, enriched with scholarly opinions and evidence, fostered a nuanced understanding of this ancient group's impact on contemporary history. The miraculous events involving Philistines, like the fall of Dagon's temple, captivated our imagination, offering both theological and scientific interpretations. These miraculous accounts, along with their lasting influence on Jewish and Christian faith, emphasized the profound spiritual legacy of these ancient narratives. We also reflected on the cultural representations of the Philistines in art, literature, and media, recognizing how modern portrayals continue to shape our perception and understanding of these historical figures. As we conclude, we reflect on how these findings relate to our faith and historical narratives. Understanding the origins of the Palestinians through the Bible not only enriches our historical knowledge but also deepens our appreciation for the complexities of human identity and divine purpose. We invite you to continue this journey of discovery by engaging with our content. Subscribe, like this video, and leave your comments. Your feedback is invaluable to us, and we welcome your suggestions for future topics. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening exploration. May it inspire us all to seek truth with open hearts and minds. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts open to understanding and peace. As we explore the origins and histories that shape our world, grant us wisdom and compassion. Help us to remember that beyond the pages of history, there are human lives, hopes, and dreams. May we seek truth with humility and love with sincerity. Lord, we pray for peace in the lands of the Bible, for all peoples who call it home. May your grace guide leaders and citizens towards reconciliation and harmony. Let the lessons from the past draw us closer to a future where justice and mercy prevail. Bless all those who strive for peace and understanding, and grant us the courage to be instruments of your peace. In your name, we pray. Amen.